instead of saying that there's no method that we can use to stop worrying or to stop having OCD or to stop anything within the realm of the neurotic health conditions, instead of saying that, we could just say there's no method to achieve equanimity, which is a very succinct way of covering everything else. Anything else we might want to say can be said simply like this, simply by saying there's no method to achieve equanimity. So this is so obviously true, it's kind of funny, really. It's like a bit of a joke statement, really, because methods are all about the opposite of equanimity. Obviously, methods are all about the situation where one outcome is not the same as the outcome, any other outcomes. It's the situation where one outcome is right and all others are wrong. So as soon as we put it like that, we can see that there's no equanimity here at all. That's the complete inverse of equanimity. That's called bias. That's pure bias, unashamed bias, total bias. That's what methods are. Methods are all about bias. Equanimity is sometimes referred to as the supreme Buddhist virtue. At least I think it is. Maybe it is. It could be. As opposed to the Christian virtues such as faith, hope, charity, whatever they are, those kind of things. So compared to the Christian virtues, we could say Buddhist virtue of equanimity seems kind of chilly or cold or something. It's almost like it's a form of uncaring, like we're not attached to anything. And that always kind of jars with our Western sensibilities, because we think attachment is a good thing, a wholesome thing, a kind of mark of our engagement, which is seeing things backwards, because whatever we're attached to, it's more like a blind dependence than anything else. So blind dependence can't be called engagement. If I'm attached to something, then this involves not being curious about what I'm attached to. So attachment means no curiosity. It's kind of like total unconsciousness, really, or dumbness or something. If I was curious about what it is that I'm attached to, that curiosity leads as surely as anything to the discovery that what I was attached to is a figment of my own mind, a figment of my own imagination. There's nothing else I can get attached to, because reality doesn't have any things which I could get attached to. It doesn't have any angles or corners or kind of character. It doesn't have any character that I can hold on to or relate to in any other way. So I can't relate to reality in that way. I can't develop a special relationship between me and reality. So like, well, me and reality, we've got this special kind of relationship going on, just me and reality is kind of an understanding we've got. Because that's not true. The only way I can get a kind of a special type of a feeling, kind of like that, would be to invent a reality that I can relate to. But then that reality I've invented isn't reality. It's just my own constructs, just my own idea of reality. So I can be attached to my own ideas. Of course, I am attached to my own ideas. That's what makes them my ideas, because I'm attached to them. But I can't be attached to reality. So attachment is a different kind of a thing. Attachment is basically our strategy for reality avoidance, really. Attachment is how we create a world that isn't there but seems to be there, that will offer ontological comfort. If I am attached to something, or I make a special point of saying something is great, something is special, something is blah, 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 whatever the hell it is, that sounds positive. But I can only specially cherish one thing at the price of completely ignoring another thing and devaluing another thing. It's like when you think people are great. If I happen to think someone's great, so, oh, they're really great, aren't they great? I can only do that. I can only value them in that way by devaluing someone else. For me to approve of one person, I have to disapprove of another. There's always that balance. So approval equals disapproval. Saying someone is great, like in that quaintly old-fashioned phrase they used to have about very important people, VIPs, which is ridiculous even to think about it, even to think about the fact that people used to talk about VIPs. What a ridiculous notion. If someone's a VIP and we all kind of we get this special feeling that we do when we're in the vicinity or talking to or talking about, or our attention is drawn to these very special people, we feel all kind of, we get this kind of feeling like, oh, I'm a very important person. But that very important person only gets to exist by creating a whole underclass of completely unimportant and worthless and kind of the direct contrast. You can't have up with that down. And what makes the contrast that creates the buzz associated with very important people? The people who aren't important in the least, gobshites, people of no special virtue or anything. So you can't look up at one bunch of people without looking down at another. And so that's attachment in a nutshell. We can't be attached to something without ruining the balance of everything, because by being attached to something, we become blind to other things and devalue other things, which are just as good as what we're supposedly attached to. In other words, there are no special things, and when we make things special, we just create a trap, because we've created a formal reality. We've created a game reality. Then we get trapped in the formal reality. We get kept trapped in the game reality, which is the same thing as getting trapped in the world of me and my projections. So equanimity is freedom from this illusion, freedom from this trap, freedom from this business where every time we try to do something that does seem to be affirming, maybe we actually do the opposite at the same time. I try to pick on something and say it's great, but only at the expense of cutting off what I'm talking about from the rest of reality, and they're making it thereby not reality because I've amputated it and making it into something else, which is a mental construct. Anything I make into a mental construct is ruined. When I make reality into a mental construct, it's ruined, totally ruined. It becomes nothing more than a jinx. It becomes nothing more than an albatross to wear around my neck. Do I mean millstone to wear around both of them, in fact. So anyway, just suppose that we won over and we come to the point of view where we can say, well, maybe equanimity isn't the same as being dissociated or the same as not caring. Maybe equanimity is the only genuine form of caring. The only genuine form of engagement with the world is equanimity, where we're not biased. Maybe I could come to the point where I would be okay about that. I could accept that, yeah, if I thought about it a bit. So that brings us to the point that we started off with in this discussion, and that is to say that there is no method, that this marvelous virtue of equanimity can be obtained. Because if there was a method, that would mean that I'm saying, well, some things are good to do, some things are not good to do. Let's do the good things, shall we, guys? And steer away from the bad things. An old kind of polarity trip sets in. But we can't do anything without a method from the point of view of the thinking mind, because the method tells us where our next step is. If one step is as good as any other step, which is equanimity or symmetry, then what the hell do I do? Where do I go? We're so dependent on methods, just as we are dependent upon black and white rational pictures of what the world is. We're dependent upon them, and yet they're not anything to do with reality at all, really. They're just games that we play. So it's very, to cut to the chase, it's very, very easy to see why there's no method to obtain equanimity. It might be baffling, might be confusing, might be annoying, but it's easy to see that, of course, there's absolutely no question about it. And the point is that when we're working with our anxiety, working with depression, working with OCD, anorexia, addiction, whatever, the only way to work in a meaningful way, in a way that isn't total bullshit, is to practice equanimity. Equanimity is the only thing that's going to help us. The only thing. Being biased to wanting one thing more than another thing, that's not going to help us, because that's the root of the problem. That's polarity. That's not going to help us. When polarity screws you over good and proper, it's no good looking to polarity to save you, help you, which is what we do, because all of our approaches in mental health are informed by the polar way of looking at things, i.e. right and wrong. For example, I was looking on, my attention was captured momentarily by some kind of YouTube type thing, and they were talking about, they were selling something, I believe. Of course, everyone's selling something, even if it's just an idea. They were selling the idea of healing, and they were trying to say, and they were saying that, do this course and you will find the right way to heal, the best way to heal. And of course, we're kind of obliged to sign on the course, get on the course, because if we don't, we won't know the right way to heal. We might start healing in the wrong way, or looking for healing in the wrong way. We'll keep on trying wrong ways. We'll waste a lot of time because we don't know the right way. And these guys come along and they know the right way. And so that's another example of this absolutely fantastically insane bullshit that we are subjected to in the world of healthcare and in the world of all those other kind of fluffy things like alternative therapies, etc., etc. Absolute, fantastically insane nonsense that there's a right way to heal, or that the path of healing has various characteristics that we can identify and then kind of utilize in some way. And what that really means, as soon as we say that there is a right way to heal, or a best way to heal, optimal healing maybe, what we've done is put the thinking mind in charge of the whole show. We've put Count Dracula in charge of the blood banks, the national blood banks. We've thought, oh yeah, give it to the Count. He's a good lad. You can trust him. He knows what side of his bread the butter is on. He knows a thing or two. We've put Satan in charge of everything. So in this context, the thinking mind can be symbolized by Satan perfectly well. In fact, The thinking mind is very aptly symbolized by Satan, because Satan is very, very persuasive, and he'll trick us every single time. So we can think about it like that. We will be tricked, no matter how well we might seem to start off. I might start off by saying, having more equanimity will help me mental health wise. So that's fair enough. So then I put Satan in charge of my attempts. Sorry, I put the thinking mind in charge of my attempts to find equanimity. Satan, the thinking mind, is the same thing. It's like Krishnamurti's joke, which I can't remember very well, and which I generally make a mess of when I do try to remember it. But it's kind of like a little story about how the devil and his friend are out for a walk one morning, bright and early, just out for a walk before the hubbub of everyday life starts. And he's walking down a road, and there on the other side of the road, a little bit further on, they see some fella suddenly stoop and pick up a piece of paper from the floor, look at it, and then quickly stuff it in his pocket and walk off. Now the devil's friend says, "What was that you just picked up? Did you see that? What was that?" And of course Satan knows what it is, because maybe Satan isn't omniscient as God is, but he's got his finger in a lot of pies. He knows a lot of stuff. He's like the Eye of Mordor. He can see a lot of stuff in terms of this metaphor. So Satan says, "Oh, that was a bit of the absolute truth that he found accidentally." And then the guy's scratching his head and looking a bit put out, and he says, "But gee, isn't that bad news for you, Satan?" So Satan looks sideways and laughs and says, "Not at all, not at all. You see, I'm helping him organize it." So that's supposedly Krishnamurti's favourite joke, or so it says somewhere in Wikipedia or somewhere, that it's his favourite joke. But there you have it. There you have this thing that always happens to us. We could talk about it in terms of compassion as well. We could say that we kind of work out and get to the point that we say, yeah, maybe compassion is a good thing, mental health wise. Maybe it'll help us to be compassionate. And then we put the devil in the job of trying to get us to be compassionate and say, right, yeah, be compassionate then. Because that's what the devil does. He issues orders and wants things to happen in one way rather than another. That's what thought does. Targeted stuff. And an example of that would be to say, okay, here's the exercise, be compassionate to yourself. And that is non-equanimity. Equanimity isn't that. Equanimity is, if you're compassionate to yourself, that's okay. It's fine. If you're not compassionate to yourself and you're very down on yourself, it's okay. That's fine. That's just as good. That's equanimity. Equanimity is not do the thing that will get the result. And yet without equanimity, we'll never get anywhere with our stuff. Like if I'm doing mindfulness and I say, this is a thing that I want to be mindful. I don't want to be not mindful. I want to be meditatory. I want to be peaceful and not be having all these agitating thoughts the whole time. There I am. I'm being polar. I'm being non-equanimous. I'm lacking in equanimity. I'm not being equanimous. Therefore, I've got a bias in my head. That bias equals thought, and thought is screwing everything up from the very beginning right to the very end. Only there isn't an end, because thought just keeps going on and on. Where we start from a bias, we continue that bias. There's no freedom from a bias. There's no freedom from a rule. There's no freedom that comes as a result of a method or a theory or an idea. Whatever that mentally produced stuff, there's no freedom from it. There's nothing from it, because it is the trap. It is the jinx. Anything that isn't the jinx is equanimity, and I can't construct that. I can't adjust myself to have equanimity. I can't, because if I wanted to, then I'd be being biased towards equanimity. So that those are all examples of how we jinx everything by turning it into a kind of a method. We get an insight, we turn it into a method. That insight has become not only worthless, it's actually become worse than worthless, because we've created a new clever trap to languish in. Okay, thanks for watching.